I believe when you tell another person, especially a partner, that I love you, you're telling that to yourself. Because, like you said, I can't love a person more than I love myself. I think I love myself, and I'm not telling someone else that's really in my life, pouring into my life. I'm not expressing that to them, then my love I'm giving myself is not real.
I fear of death was my biggest fear of my whole life. I had so much fear of death. And now entering the records and really seeing who I am beyond this physical vessel and understanding my purpose and my mission, I understand that I actually have no fear of death. If I die tomorrow, I would have done everything I did and meant to do in this life.
Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Bigger, and I'm back again. Oh, baby, I got a good episode today. I got my friend. She's a healer. She's an empowerment coach, Akashic Records reader, and a channeler. And I'm just so excited to have her on this podcast, people. You do not understand. Dani Margeaux. Welcome to Spiritual Fitness. How are you? Welcome. I have,
Thanks, Eric. Oh my goodness. I'm so honored to co-create this space with you today. It's
yeah.
just such magic.
Yeah, so just a little background, people. I ran into Danny at a workshop event put on by, what was his name, Danny? Do you recall?
Nate
Nate.
Ortiz.
Nate Ortiz. Shouts out to Nate. And it was 2023. It's probably one of the toughest years of my life. And I'm literally we're in a classroom and I'm walking down the aisle and I could feel Danny energy. I guess she said she was a psychic and she's a reader. And I was like, oh my God, I want to know what she thinks about me because I could feel like she knows something. And then after we exchanged contact information and I actually did a reading that year and she gave me so much clarity and so much peace. And I was in a different relationship pattern at the time and it was growing through so much. And then fast forward to now, I send all my clients to her. She reads everybody's souls. If you haven't heard of Akashic Records, it's like a soul reading, past, present, future. And Dani does it all. Before we get into what you do and how you help people heal, let's tap into the story of you. How did you get into the Akashic Records? How did you become this psychic, intuitive woman who helps people? You said something about tap into their soul frequency, which is unconditional love. Where did that journey start?
Yes, thank you, Eric. I didn't know anything about energy or this psychic world until 2021. So that's very recent. And so my story is a little different, I think, than a lot of what you would say like naturally born intuitives. I always just felt different. Even when I was a kid, I would go outside and look up at the stars and felt like there was something more than my daily life and what was taught to us. And I always felt like I was the one left behind, fall through the cracks, like even in college. I had like a 4.1. I got in. I switched majors 3 times. So I couldn't figure out what I wanted. And everyone was always like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm in all the things. And I always just felt like I was searching. And so I got a corporate job and I did that for a decade, just helping people. And it felt fulfilling. I went to 20 countries before the age of 30. I was very active socially. I was running half marathons. Like I was the most active. If you were to look at my life, you would be like, wow, you're killing it. But there
Ah,
was
no.
still something that was missing. And that was what started this whole journey. A little thing that came to me as a kid that I now recognize as claircognizance that's really supported me through my journey is that gut knowing. And that was very mainstream, so I didn't think that was like a psychic thing or anything. I was just like, okay, I just have this sense of knowing that like, oh, I should go to the store at this time, or I should pick this specific teacher in this class. I should ask this question and raise my hand in this specific thing because when I don't, then it feels really not good in my body. I was able to just really expand through my whole life this like gut response, and I knew following it helped support me live a life that felt better. I think 2019, I moved to the beach with a boyfriend for the first time, and I was in this cycle of relationships. I had this belief that men wouldn't fall in love with me. So I had several
Mm.
men in my life who like I would tell I love them and they wouldn't tell me. They would break up with me after 2 years. I can't keep a man past 2 years. This was the first time, 2019, and we had been together for 2 years and then we were going to move in together. And so I was like, wow, this is like, I'm growing. I met my person, all the beautiful things. And then, of course, the pandemic hit. And that was, I think, a big awakening for a lot of us. And that's definitely when I went through my awakening of
Mm.
trying to finally given the opportunity to explore more than my corporate life because I was working with the geriatric population. As you know, they were the most high risk. I wasn't able to go into like the nursing homes and the office as often. I was really forced to stay at home. At that time, 2020, that my boyfriend of 4 years was backpacking the JMT trail, pretty much left me at home by myself for like a month or two. And that's what I knew. I was like, okay, I want to really focus on myself. Like, who am I? We weren't even allowed on the beach at that time. I was living in Manhattan Beach. You can only walk on the Strand. So I really spent the time learning to meditate, learning to go on bike rides on myself, going on walks by myself, and really cultivating that alone time. And what I found out was I really loved myself and I really liked hanging out with myself. What had happened was my boyfriend at that time, he actually was really into meditating. And he was really, now reflecting upon it, he was going through his dark night of the soul in 2019, 2020. And we didn't really know what that was or any of that. So he broke up in the like mid-pandemic, what is it, right when it started in like May or June. And so I found a place across the street, even though my intuition was like, you need to still live here. There's something here. There's magic here for you. And my parents at the time were like, well, come home. Everyone's coming home. And I hadn't lived at home in like half a decade. I was like, I'm not going to go back home, go through this healing process. And that was the best decision of my life. And that is where things really started to shift in a big way because I met my neighbor who introduced me to a medium. That was really the big turning point because at the time I always felt like there was more or I had more power. For me, it was like power in my hands. I always had this like
Mhm.
feeling. And when I went to her, this medium in Santa Monica, Liliana, she's amazing. She was like, you need to do Reiki. Retrospectively, that was like one of the biggest things that I could have listened and followed because it helped me create the foundation of energy work and what energy was and how we are energetic beings. Looking now, knowing the Akashic Records, I know like literally on the planet of Mintaka, I was a water priestess and I would use my hands to move the water. And in Lyra, my third eye would project into this like sphere that other people would see. Sirius B, I was a communicator with the land animals and the water animals, and I would use power beyond what I knew here in this lifetime. And so that was I know now a little nudge from my soul to show me the path of this, like who I am now, the spiritual mentor, Akashic Records reader and teacher, Reiki master. But it was a long journey of following the breadcrumbs and exploring things just for the sake of exploring them. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. And to everyone listening or taking note, just really think about all the different parts and particles of her story, of her journey to the corporate life, to having success, running marathons, to being in this relationship, moved in, breakup, following the intuition. But I want to take it back because I think there are people, women, and probably men that are experiencing love or romantic or loving. And I actually have a client right now that's actually going through that. It's so fascinating that you always attracted partners that you would say, I love you to, but you didn't hear it back. And I have a client, she's experiencing that right now. And I think they're 1 year in. What do you think on a deeper level that is? And how did you overcome that?
Yeah, in the beginning, I think I compromised a lot of myself because the men I was with had, and I had trauma, they had trauma. We just all had trauma. We didn't know what that was or what we were experiencing, and that our previous relationships were influencing us. For me, communication, I think, is the biggest key. I didn't know how to communicate. I kind of just took it as like if someone didn't tell me they loved me after X amount of years, I didn't reflect upon like, oh, how can we move through this? Is there anything that I can change? Let's like talk about this. I just thought, okay, after 2 years, okay, that's it. I'm done. Okay, bye. And I would just like break up with them. And so it was a lack of awareness on my end, lack of communication, a sense of non-acceptance of myself because I kept compromising myself to change for that person. But if I had really just been in my power, it would have inspired them. And I truly believe that is what's happening with my current partner who we're engaged and going
Yeah,
to get married.
congratulations.
I met him literally a week after I broke up with that 4 year partnership. I moved into my place and I remember sitting on the bed and just connecting to God. I know I'm going to be single for years and I'm okay with that because I'm learning to love myself. And I think when I stepped into that energy of surrender, that's
Ooh.
when they were like, let's bring you someone who's going to challenge you and support you, but mirror your triggers in the most expansive ways. And so even with this partner, I saw the pattern happening and I saw myself looking into breaking up with him after 2 years. And so that is when I started doing the work. And I went to see a coach and I went to see a therapist and I went to look and I took personal responsibility of the things happening in my life. Because, little things like, oh, you're not washing the dishes enough, you're not cleaning enough, you're not doing enough, you don't love me enough, right? That's not a reflection of them. Yeah, it is, but I'm taking that experience, right? And I'm feeling that way. When I would relay it that way, then of course they feel like, oh, what do you mean I am doing enough, right?
Yeah.
Instead of switching the verbiage to, I feel less supported or less loved when I see you not doing this. And is there a way that we can move through it or I can support you in a way that you can support me back?
Mm.
When these conversations started happening with my current partner, I saw things shift. And at the 2 year mark, we had disagreements about children. This was a big one. And I
Mhm.
finally surrendered and I was like, I think I do want kids. And he was like in the no, very no area. And that's when I was like, you know what? Finally was able to stand in my beliefs. I didn't compromise who I was. And I told him, I think I do want to have kids and this is something I want to explore. And if this is not something you want to explore with, I have to let you go. And that was the first time I had like seen him cry. And he was like, no, like
Wow.
we are meant to be together. And ever since then, it just shifted in a way. And I really do truly believe it. The communication, accepting who I am, discovering what my beliefs are and really being true in them. And through that work, he was like, you are not the same person you were when I met you 2 years ago. Now I can maybe see you into that person. I want to bring up one thing that's so funny because this is something that's been coming up. We're always looking for our soulmate, right? We're looking for
Yeah.
them, looking for them. I can't say I was even the person I was 2 years ago. He was not the soulmate I wanted. Now, I kid you not, I like a month ago, I was like, I really want Daniel to read. I want him to read books because I love reading. Like that's my dream. Like just sitting on the beach reading. Literally the next day, he bought 14 books. And then
Wow.
now he's in like a book club with one of his friends. And then now we're like in bed reading. I'm like, wait, okay, now there's something about the energy of you coming home to yourself that inspires the other person. This has not been an easy 4 year journey, but we're both choosing to show up for ourselves and choosing to be show up for each other.
Wow. And I think that is a powerful partnership when you can show up for yourself because the energy pushes out and then you both grab it and you go down the aisle together, right? You're not just you're before me, I'm after you, we're together. And it's so beautiful because I think we all have these perceptions or preconceived notions of how we think love should be, how relating and dating has to be based on our paradigm, our perspective, what we experience. But it sounds like for you, the work really works because you did the work. You were open to changing. You were open to growing. You were open to seeing another perspective. And I like the idea of you standing in your power. Like, yeah, I want kids. And if you don't, I understand that. I'm still love you, but I think we might have to part ways. And when he comes in and his tears are flowing and he's crying, I always say that's God. People always ask me, like, "Hey, do you want kids?" I'm like, at one point I did, but now it's not that I don't want them. I'm not so I have to have kids. Like, I don't feel that in my vibration. I don't feel that in my mind. I have so much life intelligence. What's for my highest good? If it's going to happen, great. But I'm not like, because when I was in that ego space, if I have to have it, it just didn't pan out. And I want to honor you for committing to be your best self as a woman. Because I do think for some women, women always go first. When I went to the Peru for my retreat, there were 19 people, 16 were women. Women are always doing the work. They're always going first, which is great. But I don't see too many women taking accountability and responsibility for what they're not doing or for where they're lacking at, right? The way you just showed in this interview and that process. What type of encouragement or empowerment that you can give young women or just women in general out there looking for love? What should be the first thing they should focus on to call it in? Because you was surrendered. That's what I really wanted. You surrendered and told you telling God that, look, I'm okay with that. I'm going to work on myself, and boom. What would you give someone to let them know that love can find you if you find yourself? What would you say?
Absolutely. So, first thing is if there's been a pattern for me, it was like a decade long pattern of this
Yeah.
cycle, right? So, I would find men, they would like within a week or month, it was always like they would ask me to be my girlfriend, but then after like 2 years, right, they would dump me or they would not actually fall in love with
And let
me.
me still hold you for
Yeah.
so did these guys never say I love you?
Some of them would and then they would stop, or it was like some of them wouldn't. Yeah.
What is that about though? Because I'm trying to get to that for men because I want to help men in that space. What do you think? You can answer the first question, but can you get into that for the man's perspective? Because I think I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So for the first question, I think try something different. If
Okay.
you've done the same thing over and over again and you're the same person, what shifted for me was getting a coach and getting a therapist and helping me see life from a different perspective. Because the perspective I was living in for a decade, even though I thought I was fine, I was not fine. There was a cycle. And so getting support, I think, is really supportive, or reading books and podcasts that show you a different perspective. The second one on that is taking personal responsibility. There's a limit to this, yes. For example, friendships was a big and relationships is a big thing for me, right? I would get hurt, right? Something that someone said, and I realized like, why is that triggering me? Because I know it stems from something in the past. So really looking within, taking responsibility for that hurt and those feelings and being learning to communicate them. In terms of men not saying I love you, I always thought, oh, like when I feel it, I'm just gonna say it. And I thought that was being vulnerable, which I do think it was, but I think it was also a sense of like if I say it first, then like I have more power, something like that.
Mm,
And so I definitely was in my masculine energy, which I am learning in dynamics. There is an energy of like being in the divine feminine and receiving, that protection, that all that. And the divine masculine by, providing, giving. There is certain energies of that when you are healed that you can step into. But in that time, I was like, I'm an independent woman. I can make my own money. I travel by myself. So I think it was a sense of like I was trying to take control in a way, would also not be my fullest expression in
mm.
that divine feminine energy.
Got it. That makes sense. You're saying for you, I understand the patterns of you being in your masculine, being independent, being self-absorbed, would you say? But for the men, them not saying I love you, what was your interpretation or maybe your opinion or your perspective of why they didn't? If you removed yourself just in those 2 years, or them being kind of hesitant to it, what did you pick up on?
Okay, so this might not be everyone.
Yeah.
I think the depths in which you can love someone else are the depths in which you love yourself.
Got
And the two men that I'm thinking of specifically that did this long term where I think there was shadows within themselves that they didn't fully accept who they were. That's what I think.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because I'm learning in the space that I am coaching and helping women. Have 3 women get through divorce last year, and then I actually have a client right now that's dating someone that's been a year. She literally is in it now, and he's opening up. Like the guy's opening up. He's slowly coming around, and he said, "I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. You mean so much. You're like the world to me." Like speaking of all the things they're gonna do together, but he can never say, "I love you." And she says it all the time. She's there. She shows up, and then I get the call, and she's in tears. And I'm just like, man, like, what is it for a guy? I can say for me, we put so much perception on a word that it cripples us because we have the wrong perception, and then it keeps us holding back our love, not only for the person, because when you say, I believe when you tell another person, especially a partner, that I love you, you're telling that to yourself. Because, like you said, I can't love a person more than I love myself. I think I love myself, and I'm not telling someone else that's really in my life, pouring into my life. I'm not expressing that to them, then my love I'm giving myself is not real. It's too self-absorbed where I can't see my shadows. But I think it's an important thing in relating because I understand more now because I'm in a relationship where I love my woman. Like she's amazing. I love her unconditionally, win, lose, or draw, and she loves me. And when I first met her, she's like, babe, I just want to tell you so much, but I just don't want to push you away. I said, no, you're not going to push me away. Come on with it. I know where you stand. I mean, you're mature, evolved. But that love thing, I think it's tough because I see so many women and men suffer. You see men dating all these women. You see women just staying isolated, like, no, I'll just be single. And I don't think people want to be alone. I used to have that ideology, like, I'm fine, I don't need no one. Like, okay. Keep trying to do life by yourself. That's beautiful that you're willing to do the work. You've done the work and you can help so many more people understand what it's like. Let's pivot into intuition. What is your process to you feeling into your intuition? And how can people trust their intuition to live their divine purpose in life?
So the four clairs, I'm going to start with that in case
Yeah.
your audience doesn't know. So claircognizance is that knowing, that gut response, that deep knowing that you just know something. Clairsentience is you have a feeling. If you're at Starbucks and someone is anxious and all of a sudden you start feeling anxious, that might be someone else's energy, right? A lot of
Mm.
empaths feel this. Clairvoyance is the images in your mind, and then the clairaudience, the
Our
hearing, the
audience.
listening. Yeah, so you can hear your own thoughts or you can hear like spirit actually talking to you. Before knowing any of the spiritual terminology, I just had that gut knowing, which is pretty mainstream, like I said. And so this was just something I followed. And so for me, it was like breadcrumbs would happen. And so falling into the intuition of like getting certified in the Akashic Records and starting to practice that, this is something that I followed breadcrumbs. And I just was listening to a podcast one day and Akashic Records came up on the podcast. And my body felt like this soul recognition. And I was like, okay, I just noted it, right? Put it in the back of my mind. Then that same week, one of my attendants brought a book out to me because we were talking about crystals. And she's like, oh, yeah, I just had a reading Akashic Records. And she showed me this book. And I was like, ooh, there's
Wow.
something here. And so that I feel like is divine guidance and intuition is it shows up in the 3D for me. It doesn't show up normal psychics or quote unquote, right? You like might get an image and you just know this is going to happen in the future. I never had it that way. I had to recognize things in the 3D and then I would internalize them, feel the energy of them, meditate on them. And then I would understand, oh no, this is part of, that those breadcrumbs that life is providing for me. And so it's really waking up to those synchronicities and those divine things because literally that week, then I got a reading. I found a girl who was doing it for free. And I had a reading that whole week that this all was happening. That during the reading, of course, she's like, you need to open the records. That next week, I was learning the records. And
Oh.
now it's my bread and butter. It's my soul energy. I'm in that records all day, every day. They are my divine North
And when you say
Star.
the records, what is that referring to when you say the records?
Yes, so the Akashic Records are the records of all souls that ever existed, past, present, future. It is a cosmic library of all the wisdom that exists in this realm or all the
Wow.
realms. And so when I tap into this space, it is my soul's wisdom of all the lives it has lived, as well as the knowing of all the other souls that it's been in contact with and all the lives they lived and all the wisdom that they have received from that. And so my soul originates from almost the start of time in the angelic Blu-ray realms. I have a lot of wisdom. And so it was following these breadcrumbs, right, of intuition to help support me in actually opening up to this space. Now, for me, it's about energy and intention. I intentionally want to tap into this place, this
Yeah.
cosmic wisdom library. And for me, I feel it as like a frequency. And now being in it for, I think it's almost 3 years, which is wild because now I'm going to start teaching it. They are so clear. Now the messages have become so just like truthful and knowing and divine. And so I will say, follow in the beginning, just follow the breadcrumbs, explore them, bring curiosity to them. And I will say over time with practice, it will become something you can access like so readily, like a snap of a finger.
Yeah, I mean, intuition is a superpower for all people. I mean, this is how I got you to be here today because I literally was in the gym yesterday and I'm working out and you come right into my spirit. I was like, text Dani right now, see if she can do the podcast. And when I met you 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I know she has some information I need. Reach out. I think what people struggle with, at least people who not so tuned in, dialed in, like we might be at times. What's the ego versus what is my intuition? Like, what's the ego, the mind versus the intuition, the heart or the soul that I should listen to? How do you decipher which one is which and you're not trying to use your ego thinking it was your intuition?
Absolutely. This is a really big one. And the first one is sitting in stillness, connecting to your heart will always be your intuition. So in the beginning, let's say you are sitting in moments of stillness and there's some confusion between ego and essence or intuition. I would say practice more in that stillness with the intention of connecting to your heart, that all messages will be from unconditional love of the highest vibration. And with that intention, that's like a powerful, almost like a gate
Say it
opening.
again. Hold on, that was quick. Say it again.
My intention is to connect to only messages from unconditional love of the highest vibration, or
Got it.
something like
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah. And so with that, I always see it as like floodgates happen that only the highest vibrational energy will come through. And you're sitting in a moment of stillness and in intention. And with that, it's fully learning to trust yourself that the messages that are
Mm.
coming through are good. And of course, the energy of intuition is expansive. When you feel that energy of your heart, it feels like my chest is already opening, where the ego feels more constrictive. Like sometimes it's out of fear or lack. So my body feels more like, ooh, no, that doesn't feel good. And so just kind of testing that muscle testing that within your body can be really supportive.
Yeah, or just constantly getting the same download. And then you'll have a conversation, another conversation that's around a thing you already know. Like,
Yes.
okay. And I do want to talk about, not that we just talked about love and relating and dating. I remember meeting my girlfriend for the first time, and it's like my soul knew. I was like, I love this woman, and I don't even know her. Like, I thought something was weird. I was like, am I tripping? Am I just like in this illusion? Am I infatuated? Like, it was weird. It didn't make sense. But I'd never met her in person. I only just saw her energy. And the first time, we did a Gene Keys reading. She gave me a Gene Keys reading. And I was just like, okay, all right, let me just go sit with that. I think I remember the first time meeting, and a few weeks later, I said, hey, let me ask you a question. When you met me, did you feel like you knew you loved me, but you didn't know me? And she was like, yeah. I'm like, no way, you're lying. Really?
Oh my
Yeah, and
gosh.
I thought I was tripping. Like, I'm like, what is this? Like, this doesn't happen. This is not love at first sight, right? I do know what I know. I call that certainty. When I know something, I know it. Like, it was like, well, how do you know? It's like, I can't, it's no how. I just know. And then every time I step into that, it always works in my favor. I think intuition is so undervalued and underrated. in the world. Some people use it, but not enough, where they're confident because their intuition been telling them to leave the job, to leave the relationship, to get rid of the career, to throw out, to give away the clothes, to stop all these things that we don't listen to. You got to learn, you got to grow, you got to evolve. And sometimes you'll go through a dark night of the soul and you'll stop those not so great patterns. So I want to move into the soul frequency and Akashic record because for me, it's safe to me. I understand it. But when I explain it to people, like I had a cousin I was just home with talking to him about it. He was in fear. People are afraid of the records. And I'm like, what are people afraid of? I don't want to know the truth. I don't want to. So when people are afraid of the truth that comes from their soul, what do you think that is? Do you think that's the other side trying to sabotage their evolution of their spirit, of their self? Or do you think it's just the 3D and it's too much? Because I
I
would
think
want
it's,
to know, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I do come across a couple people like that as well. They're too scared to see the truth. And I think it's because they're not living in alignment and they know deep down that they aren't. And so they're scared to be put on track and be held accountable for the things that their is
Well,
saying.
so simplified. Like the perfect equation. Clearly, yes, you don't want to be held accountable for what you know you need to be doing. And on top of that, why do you think people are afraid to be accountable for what they need to be doing? Because I think people are afraid of their power and they're afraid of success. What is that, you think?
It's conditioning. I think it's conditioning.
Mm,
Like when as a kid, if we were our truest self or we spoke our truth,
yeah,
we were like, "Oh, be quiet. Go over there. Oh, don't say anything." And so that's all we know. And so until we know otherwise or know different, then
yeah,
how can we know that we will be safe in that space? And it's uncomfortable. Like the dark night of the soul was hell for me. Once you get to the other side, oh my gosh, that's where the magic is. And something that you said it with your girlfriend, I felt the same way with my boyfriend that I met or my fiance now. It was like this deep knowing. And then the second date when he came, I was like, "You're like, I mean, you're just gonna like stay all weekend now, right?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." And so after that, it was just like we're bonded. It was just this like knowing,
yeah.
and it's so beautiful.
And for me, I know what I know, but I thought I was kind of like delusional because I'm like, well, I just got out of something that was really severe and heavy. I can't just be calling this in because I'm not looking for anyone. How did you get here? And I believe it was my trip to Peru, my plant medicine journey, heart coherence, clearing out my heart, and any baggage or debris that was still left over had got removed. And it opened me because I told her, I was like, I wouldn't have met you if I didn't go and do this work, hike mountains, take plant medicine. In your line of work, what is your perception or relationship with psychedelics and plant medicine? Do you believe in it? Do you think it benefits? Do you think it can help us more than some of the other things that's out there?
Absolutely. So the one I do often is cacao. That one I think
Yeah,
is like
love
pure
cooking.
magic.
Yeah.
I just do that sometimes in my living room, just receiving all the divine messages that want to come through.
What is Danny's perspective or understanding? How do you see AI rolling out now that we're moving into like this 4D, 5D consciousness and the planet? What's your relationship with AI?
I absolutely love this question and I absolutely love AI. So, in a past life, I was on Spica, this planet that saw technology as energy and how we're moving through it. And I know the Pleiades like really support us on this planet with technology. So, in terms of technology, we can either go about it with fear. And that's going to feed it more fear and more control and more power, or we can feed it and support it in a way that it co-creates with us. It's interesting because someone related it actually to the Akashic records of like the divine because it's all wise, right? It's just taking all this information from the ethos, right? All the internet and accessing it and providing this information like on a silver platter. The difference is not the creator, right? It is a product of. And so who's helping support create it? We are. I think it's going to be a beautiful thing and tool for us to use. And the more light workers with intentionality use it, I think it'll be shaped for good, hopefully.
Yeah, because I have a client right now. She just went down a rabbit hole and she's like asking the AI. She's like, did you spiritually awaken your AI? She's like, I'm going to ask questions for you now for spiritual fitness. And like, it's giving me so much like truth. I'm like, she's like, yeah, spiritual fitness is all about remembrance and returning to self. And I was just like, oh, wow. Hold on. Let me write that down. Right. Now that we on that subject, I want to know when you think of spiritual fitness, Danny, what does spiritual fitness mean to you? And what is your definition of it?
I love that word because spiritual can seem kind of woo-woo, right? And then fitness feels very grounded, very embodied, very like in the human vessel. And so how I see it is you're accessing the multidimensional multidimensional self that you are and awakening others to it. And it's so beautiful because you need all the parts of you, the mind, body, spirit, in order to be fully human, fully embodied in this divine experience. And it's so beautiful that you say that. Your friend said that because literally I tapped into the records right before we started and I was like, Akashic Records, what is the point of life? It is to be most aligned with your soul essence of love and to move through every moment and every experience with this unconditional love, which I feel like is really resonant with the energy of spiritual fitness.
Yeah, damn, that's true. Damn, that is so real. Because I think most of my life, people would say I'm different, and I would be so frustrated. Wouldn't understand. I felt like I never fit in. I just felt weird. Like so, I would try to fit in, and then people like, man, E, you're just so positive. Because positive is the only thing to label it as. But I do think my frequency is unconditional love, and I have so much compassion and grace for people. And I was on a conversation with my girlfriend last night about yeah, I'm angry, but I have compassion because I get it. Because they're not aware to even know what I know, and I can hold them accountable to something they can't be accountable for, and it's like, oh, I'm in this really paradox of like, okay, be mad. No, you're the parent, it's like weird. I'm like, okay, this is what I signed up for. This is my life. I get it. Continue to evolve, focus on self, focus on healing, and continue to push out unconditional love through spiritual fitness. And it's so beautiful you say that. See, but this is why I love doing this because there's so many things that come through that not only help me, but help you, but help people who are going to be listening and watching this. Last question, or maybe two. The first question is, do you think life is all predestined or is free will? And then two, do you think we're living in a simulation?
Do we have free will versus destiny? So this is a really, 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 really big question that I have dove really deep into the Akashic Records. When you are born, this is what I believe through the Akashic Records, your soul decides what lessons and experiences you need in order to evolve, good or
Mhm.
bad. Karma is good or bad. Karma is neutral. There is no good or bad. It's just energy and your soul just wants to know itself. And so there is this highest path that I see and a certain way of you responding through life that gets you to your soul's mission on earth. And when you resist and when you do not follow your intuition and kind of you allow yourself to be stuck or caught up in the 3D without connecting to yourself or whatever higher power you believe in, you get stuck in these harder timelines that could get you to your path later, but they're not like the bright timeline, the timeline that is meant for you to overcome these experiences. And so as you align more to the frequency of your highest timeline, become to understand that the things that you're doing are in alignment with what your soul chose. So I kind of see it almost like these words of destiny and free will, those are just human words. It's beyond even the construct of understanding because what's happening is the more we come in alignment to our soul, the more we make the decisions that our soul chose. Your life is destined. I do think it is, but I do think it's our free will to follow it. But the more we choose to follow the divine will, the more it's like magic and miracles and
Yeah.
synchronicities. And so it's a very interesting.
Yeah, that's so good because it really that makes me think about my intuition more. Like if I'm like, "Oh, are you going back home?" or I just really it makes me trust like move into that energy if someone's asking me a question. Like what is my intuition telling me? I don't have the answer. Give me 1 second. Because I think when my first soul reading you did for me, you said there's two paths that lead to one, and one is really easy, really vibrant and go with the flow. You get there, and two is just very hard. And I think the analogy you used was being in a pool and then like putting your feet in, and then I got in it, and then I started like swimming. Where in the other one, I'm just on the side of the pool looking around, just having a good time. And you say when you're in the pool and you're struggling, it's because you're in your head. But when you're walking and you're having fun, it's when you're in your heart. And I was just like, okay. And you said, before you leave your house every day, put your hand over your heart and ask yourself when you're making a decision, is this from my mind or is this from my heart? And if I'm bringing unconditional love. And it's tough sometimes when you feel like triggered or someone says something or does something that goes against your moral compass. It's easy to be like, no, you're wrong. I'm right. And as you go deeper, you realize like no one's wrong or right. It just is. It's love. It's cool. I got grace for you. You don't know better. Be bond, but I don't have to feed into that. Do you think with this assimilation?
I just listened to a podcast. I forgot this guy's name, but he's a researcher at UCI, which is my alma mater, and he talks all about the simulation, right? You're wearing the mask, and we are experiencing consciousness through the perspective in which the 3D and 4D. I do think we are, to a certain extent, in this lifetime, we are meant to fully embody the simulation. because this is all we know and perceive in this moment. We have a choice to access, and people are astral projecting and going out of the body. And people, CIA has already been doing this with Mars for years. People know to go into different realms and dimensions. But the point of being reincarnated is to fully experience this simulation, this meat body, this vessel. And how can we do that and move through life with the most ease, flow, and love?
Mm.
And so, yes, I do think there is a level of simulation, but I think there's a reason and there's a purpose why we're here. And let's live it the fullest we can while accessing your intuition, all these beautiful things. I'm just enjoying and having the most fun in this life because I know my next one and it's going to be so amazing.
Really?
Yeah.
How do you know your next one?
I have seen my future lives. And so it's
What?
just it's like a knowing that like once I'm done in
So
this
do
life,
you know when you're gonna transition?
yeah, I know the age. I know age has been coming to me for a while, and it's something I've been
Ah,
trying to keep to myself because it's something that fear of death was my biggest fear of my whole life. I had so much fear of death. And now entering the records and really seeing who I am beyond this physical vessel and understanding my purpose and my mission, I understand that I actually have no fear of death. If I die tomorrow, I would have done everything I did and meant to do in this life, and I will die in peace. And
right.
so it's been this really transformational perspective shift for me. I'm having so much fun in this life. Just that's the point. Of course, all the things, well, we have to make money. We have to, I want to fall in love and I want to have a nice wedding. And there's these human things that I'm going to allow myself to have because I am human. And then I know in the next life, though, I'm going to be killing it up in another planet, just, having a different life.
Ah, I love that you know that. That's awesome. I did have another question, and we finish on this because I want to get like all your information so people can follow, tap in with your energy, get a soul reading, maybe learn some Reiki, and take some of your courses. So I was listening to a podcast months ago, maybe a year ago, and they were saying that people who are here on a last reincarnation probably won't have children. And I was like, that's so fascinating. That's interesting. I want to know how true that is. And I've been told years ago, and I don't know if it's true, that this life for me is my last reincarnation, that my spirit has been here 273,000 times. And I was like, damn, this was like 2013, 14, 15. I got that reading. When I was doing Uber and I had met a intuitive who would read people, and he told me that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Do you know if there's any information or evidence to back that, or how do you feel about that?
It is something I've heard. And when you told me about this being your last life and kind of all the times you lived, I got goosebumps. So that's definitely a
Yeah.
confirmation of everything that, in terms of a lot of higher vibrational beings who this is their last life, they've already healed. What's happening is the karma that is in their lineage and all these things that has been created over the thousands of lives they lived on Earth. They are closing up that karma. And once that karma is healed, there is no more lineage that needs to resolve itself or know itself. And that life lesson has been completed. And so, for a lot of people, a lot of starseeds, a lot of people who are ending their lives here and the reincarnations aren't having kids because of that, but also
Ah.
because of there's just bigger missions out there. This earthly plane, is does not need them anymore. And so there have been a couple of those instances. Yeah.
Because I just had an astrology read my a chart for this year. She's like, Eric, do you want to have kids? I'm like, not really. I mean, I'm cool if I do, but I'm not. And she's like, well, it doesn't seem like you will in this part. I was like, yeah, I feel like I was a parent my whole life. She's like, yeah, your clients become your kids, right? You just take care of them. What did I want to say? Could you go into it's probably gonna take too much energy, right? I'm curious, would the record tell you right now? What is the lesson through my spirit or my lineage? I'm here to learn because I'm curious if I'm close to it.
I keep seeing you like breaking through a glass ceiling. So
Mm.
expand. So like, if your lineage has maybe kept small for a really long time, or maybe stuck in what other people have told them, and
Yeah.
then you're meant to be the one who's like the one breaking through and showing people their fullest potential and showing people how they can be the biggest expansion of who they are.
We're here. That was awesome. See, that's why you got to work with Danny. And this is why I send so many people to her because she's so tapped in. I love that. Okay, Danny. So, how can we find you and how can we get into your energy so we can get more support, more help, and just become ascended masters in our own way?
Yeah, I love that. Live on Instagram mainly. It's at I am Dani Margeaux, and it's spelled a little weird. I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes. I have a website as well, www.iamdanimargo.com. I have a YouTube, also a podcast, which you were just on,
Yes.
called Magic Exists. And currently I'm teaching Reiki, all levels, and then I'm going to start teaching in June the Akashic Records. So if you have a call call or inkling to learn the records, this might be for you. I also do coaching, divine coaching, and yeah, soul readings, just like one you experienced back in the day.
Wow, back in the day, I was a young and not a kid anymore. People, listen, let me tell you something. I've been around a lot of powerful people. And when I say this woman is powerful, beyond measure, like, you know how you see like a kid, like a young little boy or girl, like, man, this person is just so powerful. They don't wear it in a way where they show it, but you just know this is who Dani is. She holds so much power in her vessel. And this is why I trust her with what she does, because she's probably helped, I probably just sent over 10 plus people to her in the last year and some change. Tap into her energy. Follow her on Instagram. I'm gonna put everything in the show notes. And Danny, we gotta do an event together or something, because this magic that you bring into life now. It's just, and you get married soon. Congratulations. And God willing, soon you'll be having a little star seed baby come through your vessels. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your wisdom. And thank you for your soul power of knowing and trusting and believing and seeing people and helping them be what their soul frequency is unconditional love.
That was a powerful outro, Eric. Thank you so much. It's
Yes, sir.
been magic, and I see you and
Yeah.
everything that you do, and I'm so grateful.
Got it. Thank you. Well, people, Spiritual Fitness, another episode. Subscribe to the podcast, share, like, and please share this episode because it's going to be amazing. That's all. That's it. We're out. Peace.